I wanted to
What
ask
happened?
you though, like I'm confused about what the Bilderberg Group is. I've been trying to do some research, but I don't know what their purpose is.
The Bilderberg, okay, all right, the Bilderberg Group, I ran into the Bilderberg Group deal in 2004. The Bilderberg Group is a group of very wealthy people who have private meetings. Um, they make plans ahead of time for what's going to be and what's not going to be. And when our new president goes to they have multiple what you call it, inaugural balls, and they just go from one to the other all night. Well, in the middle of one of those inaugural balls, there's a meeting with the Bilderberg Group, and they stop and they go to the meeting with the Bilderberg Group. The Bilderberg Group they're a group of high money businessmen. It's a secret organization. There has been some infiltration these in the last 20 years where people would sneak in and get some information.
Uh huh.
But as far as finding a list of their membership and stuff, I don't remember. I dug a long, hard way finding that, and when I found that, then you find more stuff. But they are they run the world, but they're not the most secret group that is at the base of everything. But they do have the political clout to run our government and run the people that run our government.
Well, that's what I
It's
want to
like,
ask you is because I mean, when I'm looking at their itinerary, which you can see like on their website, but it's very vague. It'll say stuff like when talk about Egypt or Russia or cybersecurity, and that's a lot of topics, very detailed topics to talk about in one weekend. But they don't tell you like what they talked about. It's very secretive, and a lot of
secretive
people.
is not the word for it, okay? Now, they have a website now. When I was researching, they didn't have a website. Not only that, you couldn't really find anything except that it was the Bilderberg Group. Hold on. I have to get my charger
Okay.
or my phone's going to die. Oh, is it just buzzed? Oh, mm, oh, there. Oh, okay. I've got it on speakerphone. We'll just keep talking. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. When I was looking up the Bilderberg Group, they didn't have a website. It was real secretive. You could find some mentions in in different things sometimes, but mostly it was hit or pick information. But it's like the Federal Reserve Group. Nobody really knows who they are or what they're doing. Very few people have researched into it enough to know that it's 126 Jewish families that own the Federal Reserve,
Right.
which is all the money in the world. But it's just like that. And all of these people are like all of our politicians. They're all part of that pedophile ring.
Yeah.
They're all into that, okay? And the children from that are taken from our welfare system,
Really.
or at least to a large degree they are. The ones that Gerald Ford liked. Gerald Ford took up with a favorite little girl that he liked when he went and visited a school one time, and he managed to get the welfare system to take that little girl away from her parents, and they would follow him or follow her around with him when he had to give a speech and stuff. Yeah. If you want to read about that, read Kathy O'Brien's testimony, Transformation America. And that'll tell you more about the pedophile ring than anybody else is going to tell you.
Okay.
And that's her testimony before Congress, and that was in like the late 80s, 87, I think, or 6. And it's been published. but some of it's not written real well because it's not really written. It's been a transcript it's been transcribed like from a recorder from her testimony.
Okay.
Okay? Transformation America by Kathy O'Brien.
So,
It used to be on Amazon for sale, but things changed too.
oh, okay.
But
Businessman.
So, do they make like decisions for the world?
Yep. And then they enforce them.
How do they do that? Through the United Nations?
It's kept really, really secret, okay? I'm not sure how they do it. They do it because they have power. They have money and they have power, and they do it like that. They do it through, a lot of the enforcement is done through the pedophile ring. Because they get these leaders from other countries into the pedophile ring, and then to keep them, then they blackmail them.
Weird.
And I'm not just the Bilderberg Group, but they're part of that whole hidden government.
Are they affiliated with anybody else, like NATO or UN or anybody like that?
Not that I know of. They are the Bilderberg Group. It's kind of like the Federal Reserve is the Federal Reserve.
And so, from my research, it doesn't look like it's just world leaders. It's a little bit of everybody, right?
Well, the Bilderberg Group is more business people, as I understand it. But there again, like this is something that, like I said, I researched and looked into in the early 2000s. For sure, it wouldn't have been after 2008. So it's been a long time for me trying to remember everything that I read, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I gleaned a lot of information, and I put it back and went to the next step.
Okay.
And see, when I was researching, well, it'd be almost 6 years ago now, when they killed my computer, was the pedophile ring. Was our government's connection into the pedophile ring is what I was researching, and my computer died, okay?
Yeah.
It died beyond fixing.
So, I guess the pedophile ring, I mean, what, other than the obvious, what importance is that? I mean, as far as, like, is that some Illuminati type shit, or?
I don't know for sure who's under it. I only know that it's used to control politicians on every level. They get them into the pedophile ring, and then they behave themselves, okay? Then they're given their orders, and they behave themselves, or they're brought out to the public.
So these are politicians that like little kids?
Yep.
Okay.
They're well under control, okay?
Do you think the Bilderberg Group is going to have any influence on what happens with Iran?
I don't know what's going on with Iran right now.
Well, we're about to head into a major war with them. I guess you didn't see, or maybe you did, that Iran put an $80 million bounty on Trump's head.
Okay, now,
because he had killed one of their major general leaders.
the Bilderberg Group is more about future planning.
Okay.
The Bilderberg Group is more about future planning, not going to war right now. Going to war right now is that's whole different game plan. But if there's something in there that the UN doesn't like, they'll get everything under control, suit themselves, okay? But the Bilderberg Group is more about future planning, and the Bilderberg Group is part of the reason that it's undermining our social order and stuff like that, so that everything funnels the way they want it to fund. Right now, it's things like trying to figure out a way to tax me on income that I didn't earn, but the money that wasn't spent because I went and took care of my mom and dad. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's money that's not spent, an income I didn't make, but the government feels like it's lost dollars because they couldn't get any taxes on it.
Ah.
Okay? That would be more the Bilderberg's line, future planning.
Do they have anything to do with Agenda 2030 or no?
I'm sure they all have something to do with that, but I'm not sure on what level. Agenda 2030 is the UN's thing.
Right.
But I'm sure the Bilderberg Group has their hands into that someplace, okay?
Well, I'm kind of looking at this Iran thing going, you know, okay, so long story short, this major terrorist in Iran, he killed a bunch of people, including over 600 American lives. Trump decided he'd had enough. He made a unmanned drone strike and tore this guy to pieces. I mean, in literal form. I have pictures. In response to that, the leader of Iran had stated that we were going to be meeting great consequence. And there was an $80 million bounty on his head, $1 from every Iranian in the country, to anybody who could bring him the head of President Trump. Of course, George Lopez opened his mouth and said, we'll do it for half. And why he's not arrested, I don't know. And that's another thing I want to ask you, because it specifically states, if you have a minute, I'll find it, but it specifically states, here we go, because I want to get the correct title. So threatening the President of the United States is a felony, a federal felony under the U.S. Code Title 18, Section 871. It consists of knowingly and willfully mailing or otherwise making any threat to take the life of, to kidnap, or inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States. So when he stated that on Instagram that he would do it for half, I'm thinking he just committed a federal felony and he's walking free. But if that were you or I, you know, how come we're, you know...
We're little people, they're big people playing their games, okay? And whenever you're talking about us going to war with Iran, Iraq, North Korea, Russia, China, what's going on there is those countries that don't use the Federal Reserve, they put our government, they put our military at war on them, okay? The countries that don't use the Federal Reserve money are the only countries we're at war with.
Right.
And what's going on in Chavez in South America, the only thing, those people are being punished because Chavez shut the Federal Reserve out and started using their own money. And the Federal Reserve that's why the Federal Reserve is punishing them. Because it's like the IRS taxes. All of that money goes to pay the Federal Reserve for using their money. We don't have our own money, so we have to pay them to use theirs.
Right, that's creating debt to create money.
Yes. And this is the thing, when I got into the Federal Reserve, when I figured that out, when I bought this house. You know why?
Why?
When I bought the house, I had saved everything. When I was in Indianapolis, everything I got, I put in a bank bag. At the same time, I had to have a place to live. I wasn't getting any younger, and I had to have a place to live.
Right.
Then when my money come from Social Security, my back pay, I put that all together, and that's what I bought this house with.
Okay.
All right? Now, when I went to buy this house, that was money in the bank bag. Do you know I couldn't buy this house with money? And my question was, why can't I use United States money to buy a house from the United States government?
That's a good question.
Okay?
You had every penny they were asking for, yes?
Yes. Okay? The money had to be deposited in the bank to buy the house. Now I'll tell you why. And I found out why. It had to be deposited in the bank because if the money is any money that's deposited in the bank, like when my Social Security check goes into the bank every month,
Yeah.
the Federal Reserve types in that much more money. 10 times the amount of money that is ever deposited.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, well, that's that much more money they have. They don't have to print or anything. They just have to type it in the computer. And then the American people have to pay interest on that.
Right.
So if I deposit $1,000, if my check goes into the, well, no, we'll do $1,000 because that makes it even and easy to figure. If I deposit $1,000, what do they get? What does the bank get?
$1,000.
Then no, they get 10,000.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, they get 10,000. If I deposit $1,000, they get 10,000. All right. Then from that day on, the American people have to pay interest on $10,000. And the next month, when I deposited $30,000, what did the bank get?
$300.
$300 that I and my descendants have to pay interest on forever. And that's why children are issued a Social Security number before they leave the hospital now when they're born. And that's why you can't leave the hospital. They'll confiscate the child from the parent if they don't refuse the Social Security number thing. They'll send it to welfare because of the Social Security number. Because what's going on with the Social Security numbers is there's some kind of, and I can't find out a lot about this except from what I've listened to other people talk about, lawyers and things talk about on the internet in their own conversations.
Right.
I don't enter into it because I don't know what I'm just listening and trying to pick up whatever I can about it. These Social Security numbers are bundled with they're a trust with the United States government that's attached to money that's supposed to be ours, but we can't have it because that Social Security number is put on this document, and those are all bundled and sold, and they're like stock certificates. So we are nothing but livestock to the 126 Jewish families that own the Federal Reserve. They buy us and sell us for how much they figure we're going to be worth to them.
But what value do we have to them as far as that goes? I mean, we're just people. We may not have any money.
What value? No, we do have. Our government is responsible for all this money. And they come back and they bill us for it. And that's what the national debt is.
Oh, okay.
That's what the national debt is, and like I said, I don't quite understand. Some kind of a monetary trust fund is, and there are some lawyers right now that are smart and trying to, it's something to do with a UCC number, trying to get access to it. Somehow you have to get your birth certificate cleared by getting a visa to go to certain countries. Ones that are not, I can't think of what it was now. Ones that are not part of the UN.
Right.
You can get your birth certificate, but otherwise you can't get your birth certificate. And as long as they have your birth certificate, you can't get out from underneath it at all. I don't know if you can ever get out from underneath it anyways, because I'm not smart enough. And I'm too old. And nobody's going to listen to me, so there it goes down the drain.
So when you say you can't get your birth certificate, what do you mean? Because, I mean, I have mine.
No, you don't. You have a government-issued thing.
Oh.
Okay? It's like your car. You have a government-issued some kind of title, but it's not a real title, not a real ownership.
Right, I read something about that you don't really ever own your house or your car.
Our real estate, we don't, when I had, oh shit, I can't think what it's called now. You used to get, with a piece of real estate, I mean, it'd be a big, thick thing, it'd be an abstract of the real estate. It would tell who had always owned it, what they paid everything from the beginning of when it was issued from the government. Okay? Now you don't get any of that. What you get now is you don't even get don't get any kind of a deed. Truthfully, you get a certificate of title, because nobody owns it. The bank owns it always, and the bank is the Federal Reserve.
Well, through the contract, though, I guess that's what I'm not understanding. Through the contract, you agree to pay the bank, say, $300 a month for 30 years, and once you get the 30 years paid off, then they give you a piece of paper that says you own it, right? Or no?
You get what they call title insurance now. That's what you get.
Right. When I had the land there, we had to do that. We had to go through a title company.
That's right. That's what you get. You don't get a deed. You get a title insurance. All right. And the fact of the matter is, at this point, nobody ever pays their house off. They get along the way and they resell it and buy another house.
Oh, that's true.
And go back into debt, and they just don't. It never materializes. And of course, if it materializes, then someone has to make and come out with any money out of it, well, then the government takes that too. But as long as you don't sell it and come out with any money out of it, they'll let you keep living there.
That's true. Because you have to pay,
Okay?
what is it, capital gains tax?
Yes.
For selling your own damn house. But if I sell this printer in here, I don't have to pay the government crap. Well, technically I do if it's over $20.
Well, I understand, okay? But you understand what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
I don't understand the particulars of it. What I gave you is just an overall balloon of the idea. You are young enough and smart enough, you could probably figure out some of the particulars. But there's a group on Facebook that talks about some of that. If you can figure out what all they're talking about, if you can stay up with it and follow with it. But these last 2 years, I have been so distraught with everything else that I can't even keep up. And most of the time, I just put it off for 30 days and then see what they have to say then, because but you can't do that. You have to stay with it and follow through step by step on what they're doing. And,
Right.
They talk about getting your real certificate of birth, and I don't know if they call it that, and I can't remember right now, and getting yourself cleared with your UCC code so that you can use your own trust fund that has been set up with our government for you when you got your Social Security number. And, of course, if you don't get that money, guess who gets that money?
The government.
Whoever bought your Social Security stock certificate.
Oh, yeah.
This is the other one that I'll tell you. And I don't know much about this other than I saw them talking about it at one point. When you get a Social Security number,
Uh-huh.
that number is put on several $100,000 worth of bills, paper Federal Reserve notes.
Oh. The serial numbers?
Yes, the serial number on the bills matches your Social Security number. When you get your Social Security number, and that is your trust fund. That money is your trust fund. But you can't get it and you can't use it. The Federal Reserve keeps it and they have it.
Is that the money that you're logically supposed to get when you get to Social Security, or is that a whole nother thing?
It's a trust fund that is set up for you with your Social Security number. And you can't get it because your Social Security number is put on a birth certificate, which is no more than a stock exchange certificate that the people in the Federal Reserve buy. So they get your money and they get to keep the money. And as you go through your life, and you buy and sell and spend money, that's why the bank wants your Social Security number, because that ties in so that they can get paid from this trust fund somehow I don't know how.
So, if you default on a contract, then they've been paid if you don't pay.
I think so, but I haven't got that figured out either.
I haven't either, but I'm sure going to look into it because, I mean, everybody will tell you that they ask for the Social Security number because if you default, then they have a way to, pin the debt on you through a collection agency. And then it goes to your credit file that says you owe ABC Bank.
But there again, it goes a lot deeper than that. It's just that we as common people don't know where it goes, okay? And there's a bunch of lawyers that are digging into it. And there again, like I said, I was following some of them on Facebook, but there were books that I wanted to get and read. I couldn't afford them. And right now, I'm still struggling with how to handle my land so that they can't take it away from me.
Right.
And I mean, I'm struggling with it. I need a lot of information that I can't seem to quite get. I can put it into a personal trust, but I don't like that idea. It has my name on it. I want my name off of it. That would lean towards an LLC or something like that. I don't know how that's going to affect my tax bills, but I need to know before I do it, because when I can't pay it, then I've got trouble.
Yeah, well, I would consult an attorney on that one, honestly, because my thought on that, I was doing some thinking on that if it was not purchased under an LLC, I don't think you can convert it unless you sell it to the LLC,
What I have read is I think it can be. I think I can convert it. But what was it? Just a minute, I lost my train of thought. Let's see if I can think of it again. Anyways, what I wanted to set up was like a real estate trust, a trust that held the real estate. And,
right.
It could be a corporate trust or it could be a separate trust, but I don't really want a trust with my name on it. And I think a corporate trust might be the best choice, but I'm not sure. And I don't think it should be in Florida. Corporations, businesses set up their stuff in Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming because of the lax reporting rules. There's not very much reporting rules left to be done in those states.
Okay.
Less taxes, less reporting, less everything. But you have to pay somebody to be a representative in the state to accept your mail, in case if you have a lawsuit against you or something. But there again, for a little individual like me, who didn't have their name on it, people would look it up and they wouldn't see my name on it, so they wouldn't try and sue me. To a large degree, if I hadn't done anything, they wouldn't try and sue me. Where, as it is right now, in my name, they look me up and they say, oh, I'd sue her to get some money. And I learned that right here in Charlotte County, because they do that all the time here.
Right.
So anyways, like I said, that's another whole part of it. But the UCC number is, there's something to do with that, and I can't remember, universal something or other. No, anyways, that has something to do with it, but it's attached to the Federal Reserve, and whoever buys the stock certificate or birth certificate with your number on it has access to that money. Now, I'm going to tell you why I was off the grid at one time, if I haven't told you.
Okay.
I know I was off the grid because when I tried to get my credit report, they'd always, they told me I didn't know what my address was. Well, I knew what my address was, but they didn't know what it was, and I pissed them off, okay?
Uh-huh.
You're supposed to be able to get a free credit report. Remember when that law changed that you could get a free credit report? Before that, you had to buy your credit report.
Right.
Okay, well, anyways, I got pissed off about it. I said, well, it's my credit report. You're keeping information on me, my information, and you're selling it for $35 a whack?
Yep.
You want me to buy my information back from you? I don't think so. So I set about messing with their credit report, which I did real good. But then when I knew I was off the grid, I knew I was off the grid because when I tried to get a credit report, it came back that I was dead.
Dang.
Okay? So I was off the grid. They didn't have me anymore when I bought this house. But I knew I needed a place to live, and I didn't know how else to get a place to live except to buy a house and put it in my name.
Right.
And if I could have had a trust to put it in then, it would have been safe forever. It wouldn't have been in my name. Okay? And nobody would have known anything about it, and I still would have been on, and I would have been off the grid anyways, but I didn't know about any of that stuff. And if I could put this real estate in a trust, like for the kids, they could go off the grid and drop it. And just drop the grid on its nose, because they couldn't be traced once that stuff was in like a corporate name and the thing is, the new government that we're going to deal with, and it's coming on fast with the New World Order, is going to have respect for corporations and none for people.
Right.
People are going to be ants to do away with.
Well, that's what I'm wondering about this whole thing with Iran, is because, number one, they don't have a central banking system. North Korea, Iran, and Cuba do not have a central banking system. Last report in the year 2000, in addition to those countries, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya were not on a central banking system, but they are now, which is probably why we don't, I mean, we're still there, but we don't have a lot of involvement. So with this whole New World Order thing, I'm wondering if this Iraq war is going to be part of their population control.
That's why the Federal Reserve is putting them down, because they're not on the Federal Reserve money. And until they get on the Federal Reserve, you think about it, Libya and all those have been in trouble with our military for all this time. They've been in trouble. It's because they refused the Federal Reserve system. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that gets them at war with the American military, because the Federal Reserve System refuses to not put us at war, use our military to enforce their money control. And the Federal Reserve System, remember, is 126 wealthy Jewish families. It was started and founded on, that island off of Georgia. Name of it.
Oh, shit.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. It started and founded in there about 1913 under President Wilson.
Right.
It's not even legally ratified by our Congress, because they kept it just enough people there to vote for it, and the one person didn't. But they arm twisted him into signing it anyways. So we're not legally even under the Federal Reserve System according to our law and our Constitution. But the UN is ending our Constitution. They already have. The New World Order ended our Constitution. We're not under the American Constitution right now. People just don't know it. And they're keeping it kind of quiet because they want us to go smooth and easy. And as long as people don't know it, young people can be initiated into it, okay?
Right.
If the old people don't, if young people ain't going, tell the young people not to listen to the old people. The old people might remember freedom. Young people never had it. They don't remember it. They don't know it. And this is what they've been told in school. They don't study anything about the Constitution in school anymore. Nothing.
Yeah, because I saw something the other day about how they, I'm trying to think, it was like they're starting to teach kids to back down from conflict, not debate it, and they're also, of course, they're teaching kids about the gender thing. They're trying to really melt down the human spirit, at least here, and
they've been doing it for over 20 years now. Started in the 90s, all right?
And now we got to have a lot more of the I identify as a cucumber. This is my personal space. And it's getting wild.
Here's another thing, Scott. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there's two genders. There's male and female.
Me too.
Because that's what chromosomes are.
Right.
All the rest of them, as far as I'm concerned, got a mental problem.
Well, and
It's our government. My grandson went into a medical career in the U.S. Navy, and he got out because all they were doing was sex change operations.
All right.
Okay? It disturbed him enough that he wanted out. Anyways, this is what I will tell you. This chemical, it's a herbicide or a bug spray, atrazine. Have you ever heard of atrazine?
Yes.
Atrazine causes people to change sexes.
I kind of suspected that it was something to do with food or water, because it's becoming a lot more of a thing now than it ever was in the 80s or the 70s. I mean,
It's atrazine. It's a chemical company product. Okay. Now, this serves the New World Order perfectly, and I'm going to tell you how. They don't need sexes. They don't need male and female. If they want babies, if they want new worker ants, they can make them in test tube.
yeah,
They just need enough people to do the work, so they don't have to do the work. That's all they need.
right,
And the rest of us, they're going to put down. And when people really get smart to it, it's going to be late in the game.
yeah,
It's already late in the game. And I remember when I was in my women's studies classes in school, and we were discussing different things, and I said, well, they talk about how we've talked about how women have been mistreated through all these years. We were oftentimes, and still, nothing more than property. Women were enslaved more than any other group, really.
right,
They fought to get the vote in the United States, and that's been really very recent. That started in Wyoming. But, that's just been the truth of our history. Women, and there are so many countries in the world still that as a single woman I wouldn't go to by myself, because women there are enslaved. Or is it in the Middle East they're stoned because of nothing?
right,
Because their husband isn't happy with them, okay? All right. But, so where we're at is, they don't need two sexes. And what I said was, what I am concerned about at this point is what use they will find for us as women when they no longer need us to have babies. Because up until now, they couldn't have babies without women.
true, or men for that matter.
Well, they can use the sperm banks, okay?
True.
For that matter, what they needed was, it's like a bunch of cows. They needed women to gestate the baby, because they have more population to control, to make money off of, and to put to work. And at that time, they were experimenting with test tube babies and test tube fertilization and implanting embryos into women who couldn't have all this stuff. And now we're to the point where, no, they don't need us and they don't want us, so they're going to turn us all into it.
Yeah, and it really is heading that way. Again,
Yep.
for the record, I don't have a problem if you're a man and want to be a woman. That doesn't bother me.
I don't have that either.
You
I
know,
don't have a problem.
the problem is I need people to recognize that even though you feel like, and I'll give a good example, you feel like it is more natural for you to be a woman, but you're in a man's body. I get that. It's no different really than, being attracted to men and you're a man. I mean, we could argue that that's a mental illness as well. I don't know. I'm not educated enough into the biochemistry of the human brain, and even people with PhDs really don't know a whole lot about it either. But the fact is that this is a movement now that is being pushed onto the agenda of society, that it is
being taught to children that it's cool.
It's not being pushed as something normal or you should accept. It's something being pushed, I feel like, that you should do. You see what I'm saying? So it's not something like, oh, if you see a man in a dress, don't be mean, don't bully him. It's not that. It's cool. You should do it.
Yeah, they're taught that this is cool. And on top of that, they're trying to get it taken off the birth certificate where you don't put a sex on the birth certificate.
New York already has it. They mark it as male, female, or X.
Well, no, they're trying to take it off where there's no male, female, or X on it. Nothing.
Oh, really? Okay.
You're just X. You get to decide whether you're a man or woman later.
Yeah, they've been doing that.
Yeah, well, that don't sound right to me, does it to you?
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be, offensive to people, but if you come out of your mother and you have a penis, you're a boy. If you come out and you have a vagina, you're a girl.
Pretty much, I'd say that's what I think. But if they don't want to believe that, they can check the chromosomes, and that's still going to tell the same thing. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, I have one boy dog and one girl dog. I mean, if the boy dog wants to wear a dress, let him, but he's still a boy.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
His biological makeup is still male. Whether he's got a tutu on or a lumberjack suit, he's still a freaking boy.
Yeah, none of the rest of that. Yeah, all the rest of it is frosting on the cake.
But our food supply and our water supply has been so messed up. And another thing that Iran is saying, they said that in 2018, that they have sleeper cells here ready to attack at a moment's notice when the Trump administration becomes too much for them. And so it would not surprise me one bit if they attacked the United States in a biological form with our water, our food, viruses, things like that. Because we honestly, think about it, we expect them to do something like they did with 9/11. We're expecting that. Cities are on high alert, that there's going to be some type of an event at a Super Bowl or something. We're expecting that. And I don't think they're going to do that. I think they would do it biologically.
And see, Scott, 9/11 was set up. George Bush is right in the middle of that. The high-end Jews insured their building the 2 days or so before it blew up. That was planned and put ahead. That was orchestrated by the group that is the New World Order, and that was orchestrated to get the people to say, "Oh, protect us! Take our Bill of Rights away from us, but protect us." And that's what he did. George Bush signed the Bill of Rights away, and we don't have rights anymore.
Well, and his father co-authored Agenda 21.
Wait, come again?
I said his father co-authored, or at least attempted to assist in authoring Agenda 21.
He had his hands in it. Don't think he didn't.
I know he did.
And that was part of the. Oh shoot! That was some of the stuff that goes with the Bilderberg Group. And see, the Bush family are the ones that brought the Nazis in from Germany and installed them in our government with new names. The Bushes are the Nazis.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that put the Nazis in our government here in the United States with new names and covered them up.
Do you think they hid Hitler? Because do you think Hitler died, or do you think he was moved to South America? I mean, he's dead now for sure, but
Scott, I don't know. I think most of these people, I think Hitler was a true person. I think Hitler was not the bad guy in this. Is what I think.
He was following orders.
Well, This is where Hitler was. Hitler was a little nobody, and they put him in office. The Queen of England, the Bush family, the Vatican, they put him in office because they thought they could control him. They controlled the elections and everything, and they thought they could control him. Well, they could for a little while, but then he got smart to what was going on, like some little poor people do, okay? And he said they were doing this genetic research, and he said, "Oh, this is good stuff, and this belongs to the people of Germany, and I'm not going to give it to you." Okay? And so the response to that was, Churchill said, "We got to do this," and so they went. So they put the American military in the whole scene, and they start World War II to get control of Hitler, because Hitler wasn't hard easy to control. Okay,
right.
That's what it was all about. It was about not about what Hitler was doing, but about Hitler wouldn't give them the genetic research. Okay, that's what World War II was about.
Right.
And they saw the little people, and so it was, Hitler probably died because he wasn't going along with the program, okay?
Well, they found bunkers and stuff in South America that were definitely German, and they were erected after the end of World War II. So if Hitler didn't escape to South America, his troops did to avoid the war crime part, because everybody has to be a patsy.
Like I said, there were a lot of people that would have been trying to get out. And see, Hitler gave the Jews, I can't remember for sure, I think 2 years and money to leave Germany. And then, after that, then they were stuck there. And they've even pretty much proven that the Jews didn't die in the concentration camps. And those stacks of bones and bodies that they show in the pictures were really dead from starvation in Germany because the country was blockaded and people didn't have any food or anything.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I heard. Again, it's all conspiracy, but I heard that the concentration camps were not resorts in a sense, but because again, people will testify that they were there, and it's completely wrong. But when they go to investigate these places, they have tennis courts and pools and all kinds of things. Now, I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, there's definitely a lot of untold truth.
What I'm going to tell you is they say how many millions of Jews died in Germany, right, in the concentration camp.
Uh-huh.
There weren't even that many on the census. I mean, there wasn't even a tenth of that on the census, if I remember right.
That's right.
So where did they come from if they weren't there to begin with, that they killed all these Jews? They killed 3 million Jews, and there weren't but 300,000 in the whole country. Where did the extra ones come from that they killed?
That's a good question.
That's the question I asked. They weren't there, so how did they kill that many?
Rumor too also was that the United States was a majority involved with rounding up people to put in concentration camps, and I don't know. I mean, how do you explain the gas chamber and things like that? So I mean, I really don't know. I mean, people would say that they executed them because they were ridden with disease and they didn't want them to infect the entire country.
The gas chamber, they know they had gas chambers to delouse them. All right?
Right.
And lice are a big problem in a wartime because there's no water, there's no soap, there's no food, there's no nothing. You do whatever you can do to survive and live, okay?
Right.
Nothing's going to grow, so you're not going to grow anything. The trees are bombed. I mean, look at some of the pictures of Europe after the war. Nothing left. They're bad. Any place where they bombed to that degree. And but no, Hitler was not the bad guy in it. The Queen of England, Churchill was a real bad one, the Vatican, and then we'll go back to the Jews, because they got more in all this than what you think.
Yeah.
And the more I read and study, the more I understand why people hated the Jews for years, because the Zionist Jews at the top run and control everything. They buy and sell us. Now, there's a whole poor class of Jews that doesn't. And everybody says, oh, well, read your Bible, read your Bible. Well, the Bible is nothing but the Jewish history. There are other histories written. So why do we want to follow the Jewish history? Because Jesus was a Jew. No, Jesus was not a Jew. Jesus was a Nazarene, and that's why the Jewish priest had him killed, because he was a Nazarene and people were following him.
Right.
He wasn't a Jew. His daddy was a Jew, but his mommy was a pagan. That's what made him the Son of God. The fact that his mommy was a pagan and she was pregnant out of wedlock, because under the pagan religion, if a woman is pregnant out of wedlock, they simply say the gods raped them in the fields, and that makes their child a demigod. Versus the Jewish law, which makes the child of an unwed mother a bastard child.
Right.
Now you think of the difference in the connotation of those two words. If you're growing up and you're a child, well, he's a bastard child.
Right.
She's the child of God. He's the child of God. Think of the difference in the connotations and how people grow up. Okay?
Well, that does go, beyond what I've always said, that people, when they tell stories, things are twisted a little bit each time they're told.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you remember long enough, you can remember it the way they want you to tell it to get paid and to live. And it's like Oswald. Oswald wasn't the one that murdered Kennedy.
No.
Oswald tried to warn Kennedy more than once. But he went down. They needed somebody to go down for it, and he was the problem. He was a troublemaker, so they got rid of him.
Right. Yeah, and I've got questionable documents on that where they had spotted him in or Cuba, rather, or in Panama, one or the other, after he supposedly died.
Okay.
How do you make of that? I mean, I think I sent him to you. I mean,
I don't know how to make of it, but I will tell you this. This is a lot of years later, and this is what I will tell you. Every one of these political leaders have doubles that they use.
well, yeah.
Just like Mrs. Clinton had 2 or 3 doubles, and the one when she come out, I could spot her. When she come out on TV, I could spot her. And I don't know what it was I don't remember what it was that I said was different, but it was an expression or a hand movement or something. I said, that's not the way she always is.
Uh-huh.
I could spot the one, but I know there were some that I couldn't spot because she was really sick there for a while and she wasn't able to make speeches.
Right.
And that when she made that one public appearance and she collapsed and they huddled around her and rushed her into that van and took her up to her daughter's apartment and kept her there for 3 weeks. She wasn't well. That was the World Trade Center thing. And she went to some kind of memorial service or something there. She was too sick to be elected president. Okay.
Yeah.
But we weren't to know any of that because if she was able to sign her name in the beginning, they would make sure the documents were forged for what they wanted to be in.
Exactly.
And that's what they have against President Trump. And I'm not going to say a lot of what Trump does, okay? But why I voted for him was because he wasn't the same old horse for dinner.
That's true.
And he wanted to keep his offices in the Trump Towers because he could control security there. And he was smart enough to know that when the president in the White House doesn't behave, CIA knocks him out.
Right.
And he knew that. Don't you think he doesn't know that stuff?
Oh, he knows. Like I said before, he came on with his campaign that he was going to do this and that and this and that, and he's done most of what he said he was going to do. And that's unusual because most of the time when politicians come on and say that, then they get elected and then they get taken into the back office somewhere and say, well, that was a great campaign, but this is how we're really going to do it.
Well, he went to the back office. Don't think he didn't. But what he's doing is he's selling out, draining the swamp for business. And it's like I keep telling my son-in-law, they keep saying, oh, the stock market's going to crash. I said, it's not going to crash as long as Trump's in office.
Right.
He's a businessman. He's going to make sure the stock market's okay. And he's going to trade out other things. He's traded out the environment for the stock market. Well, the environment is important. Okay, it's important shit.
Yeah.
Trading it out for the stock market because that's what's going to do good under him. Well, if he drains the swamp, he has to, number one, shut down the UN. He has to get rid of the Federal Reserve, and he has to prosecute the pedophile ring. And those 3 things would drain the swamp. There'd be no more swamp.
And he's got to withdraw from the UN, too.
Well, that's what I said. He's got to shut the UN down.
Yeah.
He's not got to withdraw from. He's got to go on the floor and say, get out of our country. Get out of our country. That's what he's got to do.
What do you think would happen if they did? Let's just say they did. They got out of the country. We withdrew. We're no longer a part of it. What do you think would happen to the country then?
We would go back under our Constitution instead of the New World Order. The foreign troops that are occupying various places, various military bases would leave. We would no longer train the jet fighter pilots for the whole world, which was what we do. Why is our military training jet fighter pilots for the whole world, including Korea?
Yeah.
Okay? The American people are paying for that. Why? What does that make any sense? Okay, these FEMA camps would shut down. The FEMA offices would shut down because the FEMA offices are UN offices. They are not United States government offices. And little Georgie knew FEMA was UN, and that's why when the hurricane went into New Orleans, he didn't bother with it. If FEMA was UN and they were UN, and FEMA was going, and FEMA was doing what they do, which is the UN. FEMA didn't have anything to do with him, and he caught a lot of flack for it because the people thought FEMA was the United States government. FEMA has nothing to do with the United States government. FEMA is the UN. FEMA is the UN tanks that you see you'll see pictures of them, trainloads of them. FEMA is the concentration camps that are already built here in the United States, the prison camps.
Yeah, which goes on to all those abandoned Walmarts for plumbing issues. I think they're planning on using those for part of their storage of human prisoners.
First off, those are already connected to a whole underground tunnel system. And I talked to one truck driver who has delivered down in those tunnel systems. You drive in the back of that Walmart and it goes into a tunnel and they deliver stuff down in there, okay? Now they want to talk about how many sinkholes there happen. Well, they're building a whole underground tunnel system underneath. So yes, sometimes it's going to sink. They're going to have sinkholes. It's going to break through. All right? But this is what I'll tell you about Walmart. Walmart is one of the biggest retailers in the world.
Uh-huh.
And they are on the same computer order system as the United States military.
Really?
You can go into their computer order system and you order straight into the United States military because it's all exactly the same system.
Huh. That's good to know.
Well, it's just a little piece of information that if you think about things, doesn't fit, right?
Right.
There's a Roebuck wasn't on that computer system. Target ain't on that computer system. Yeah.
Huh.
General Motors is on that computer system.
No, they're not.
All right? Just think about it. What that really says. I mean, Scott, they can look at our phone records and say, oh, well, Gedda and Scott talked for an hour here, and they talked for an hour here. What does that infer? That infers that Gedda and Scott have something to talk about, right?
Right.
So what does it infer that Walmart is on the same computer ordering system as the military, as the United States military? What does that infer?
That they're partners.
They're intertwining. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. They got something to talk about, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's definitely a lot to think about for sure, and it's I mean, you've always been knowledgeable with things like this, and like I said, people may think that it's a little out of sorts, but that's the whole thing. People have to stay woke. They have to learn for themselves. Chris was saying something the other day that if the media or Pelosi or whatever comes on and says something, people just believe it. They don't stop to think that they need to do a little more research for themselves, and go with what they have found out and also with what they've heard and form their own opinion. And that's the problem with this country. We're 50% divided. We got 50% that hate Trump and everything that he does, and 50% that love him. And we got the Democrats saying he's a terrorist and all this other stuff. So then if a war with Iran kicks off, we're fucked.
Scott, the problem with this country is we have a bunch of idiots that truly are an argument for population control.
Mm-hmm.
And I was against population control until I lived here and saw what kind of idiots they are. They don't think. If they're not going to think, do we need them? No. You know who they're going to get rid of? They're going to get rid of the people that do think, because we're not good worker ants.
Uh-huh.
But no, it's that the problem is we don't have a two-party system. We have a one-party system. It's called Demo-Repubs. Demo-Repulsivicans. That's what I call it. You're the Demo-Repulsivicans. And it's one party. They're both one party. Don't think for a minute they're not.
Right.
And if you look at another party, look at the Independents or something like that, this is what I'll tell you. The Democrats and the Republicans both right now are trying to pass legislation that nobody can run on any kind of a government platform unless they are a Democrat or a Republican. That just limits it to their one party, which is they are one party. They aren't two parties, they're one party. They're fussing around to give a presentation to make people think they have a choice. We don't have a choice. They aren't any choice because they're both one. But the show is to make us think we have a choice. It's a con game.
Right.
It's a con game. And no, people don't think about anything. They don't think about it at all. They just go along with whatever
They hear.
Did you hear the news? What news? Were you listening to the Russian news? The Russian news has some information on it. Almost any foreign country, you can get some real news, but you can't get it here in the United States.
Right.
And see, when I was on the internet, when I had my computer, I was on the internet, I had news coming from other places in the world. And believe me, other countries don't have any trouble seeing when we have a coup of our government, but we don't see it here.
Right. Well, that's no different than, when people say that North Korea controls what their people is allowed to see on the TV, and they do that here too. People just don't realize that.
It's done big time here. It's done here as much or more than North Korea. The only thing what we know about North Korea is what our government tells us about North Korea through our news media.
Right.
And they tell us what they want us. They tell us what the Federal Reserve wants us to know because North Korea refuses to use Federal Reserve money. There's your Federal Reserve controlling the world, causing wars, causing trouble.
Right.
And that's 126 Zionist Jewish families, remember that own the Federal Reserve, that own the American people. Okay? They own us lock, stock, and barrel as stock certificates. Each one of us are no more than a livestock that they're buying and selling.
Right.
And when you really figure that out, that's when you start to understand what's really going on. But you really have to look at it and say, oh, well, yeah, that's what it is. And what you really buy with a Federal Reserve note really isn't yours anyways because the money belongs to the Federal Reserve. Even though you worked and earned it. Unless you use coinage, the coins in the United States are still United States money. If you use coins, you're using United States money that the Federal Reserve can't tax. Or if you use real gold and silver, trade or barter, and boy, don't you think they don't like trade or barter. Okay? No, they don't like trade or barter because the Federal Reserve doesn't make any money on it.
Well, that's just crazy. It's a lot to take in for sure. But, I guess one step at a time is all we can do, right?